I'll never forget the day my stepfather, Robert Chen, threw my birthday cake in the trash and told me I should be grateful he even let me live in his house. I was 12 years old. It was my birthday. My mom had scraped together money from her part-time job at Walgreens to buy me a small cake from Safeway. Nothing fancy, just chocolate with Happy Birthday Daniel written in blue frosting. Robert came home from his accounting firm in downtown Portland, saw the cake on the kitchen counter, and his face twisted with disgust. "What's this?" Robert demanded. "It's Danielle's birthday," Mom said quietly. "I bought him a cake." "With what money? My money?" Robert picked up the cake and walked straight to the trash can. He dropped it in. "We don't waste resources on unnecessary celebrations in this house." I watched my cake disappear into the garbage. Mom's eyes filled with tears, but she said nothing. She never did. My name is Daniel Cooper. I'm 28 years old now, and this is the story of how my stepfather spent 15 years making me feel worthless, and how karma finally caught up with him when he needed me most. My real father died in a car accident when I was 9. Mom was a grocery store cashier making $11 an hour. We lived in a small apartment in Beaverton, Oregon. Life was hard, but Mom and I were close. When I was 10, Mom met Robert Chen at a community college class. Robert was 42, a senior accountant at a mid-sized firm, owned a nice house in West Lynn. He seemed stable, safe. They got married when I was 11. We moved into Robert's house, a 4-bedroom colonial with a big backyard. It should have been a dream come true, but Robert made it clear from day one. This was his house, his money, his rules, and I was just the unwanted baggage that came with marrying my mother. "Your room's the smallest one," Robert told me the first day. "My office and the guest room are off limits. Don't touch anything that isn't yours." His house had expensive furniture, a huge TV, a finished basement, but I wasn't allowed to use any of it. "Daniel, get away from the TV," Robert would bark. "You'll break it. Go to your room." When Mom tried to defend me, Robert would get cold and distant with her for days. Eventually, she stopped defending me at all. 2 years after they married, Mom had twin daughters, Emily and Sophie, Robert's biological children. That's when everything got worse. The twins got everything. New clothes from Nordstrom, dance lessons, soccer teams, birthday parties at those indoor trampoline places with 30 kids invited. I got hand-me-downs from Goodwill. No extracurriculars because we can't afford it. My birthdays were ignored completely after that first thrown-away cake. "Why does Daniel get the new backpack?" Emily asked once when Mom bought me a $20 backpack from Target for 8th grade. "Because his old one has holes," Mom explained. "That's not fair," Sophie whined. Robert glared at Mom. "She's right. It's not fair to spend money on Daniel when our daughters need things too. The girls have everything they need," Mom said softly. "Don't question how I provide for this family," Robert snapped. Mom bought me the backpack anyway, but I could see the guilt on her face, like I was a burden, like loving me cost her a piece. Dinner was the worst. Robert would sit at the head of the table talking about his day, asking the twins about school, complimenting their grades. I'd sit silently, eating whatever was served, invisible. "Daniel got a B+ in math," Mom mentioned once, trying to include me. Robert barely looked up. "Math is easy. Anyone can get a B+. "Emily got a B+ last semester, and you took her to Olive Garden to celebrate," Mom said. Robert's jaw tightened. "Emily is my daughter. Daniel is your responsibility, not mine." The table went silent. Emily and Sophie stared at their plates. Mom's hands shook. I was 14. That's when I realized Robert would never see me as family. I was just the kid he had to tolerate to keep my mother. High school was my escape. I threw myself into studying, stayed late at the library, worked part-time at a Subway near school. "Where's Daniel?" Mom would ask at dinner. "Who cares?" Robert would reply. "One less mouth to feed." I saved every dollar from Subway, kept my grades perfect, applied to colleges with full scholarships because I knew Robert wouldn't pay a single cent for my education. Senior year, I got accepted to Oregon State University with a full ride. Academics and financial aid covered everything. "I got into Oregon State," I told Mom and Robert at dinner. "Full scholarship." Mom's face lit up. "Daniel, that's wonderful." Robert didn't even look up from his steak. "Good. You'll be out of the house." "Robert!" Mom gasped. "What?" "He's 18. Time for him to take care of himself. Robert finally looked at me. Don't expect to come running back here when college gets tough. You're on your own now. I wouldn't dream of coming back here, I said quietly. Something in my voice made Robert's eyes narrow, but he said nothing. I left for college 2 months later. Mom cried when she hugged me goodbye. Robert stayed in his office, didn't even come out to say goodbye. At Oregon State, I majored in computer science, worked 3 part-time jobs, campus bookstore, weekend security guard, tutoring, graduated in 3.5 years with a 3.9 GPA. Google recruited me straight out of college. Software engineer positions are in their Seattle office. Starting salary, $95,000 plus stock options. I was 22 years old, and for the first time in my life I wasn't struggling. I called Mom every week. She'd update me on the twins. College applications, boyfriends, drama. She never mentioned Robert unless I asked. How's Robert? I'd say. He's fine, Mom would reply. But her voice always sounded tired. When I was 25, Mom called me crying. She'd been diagnosed with stage 4 breast cancer. It had spread before anyone caught it. I drove down to Portland every weekend, sat with her during chemo, held her hand when she was too weak to talk. Robert barely showed up at the hospital. I have to work, Robert told me once when I asked why he wasn't there more. Someone has to pay the medical bills. You have insurance, I said. It doesn't cover everything. Robert's voice was cold. Not that it's your concern. She's my wife. Mom died 6 months later. I was 26. The funeral was small. Some of Mom's friends from work, a few relatives, the twins. Robert stood by the casket, stone-faced. When people offered condolences, he nodded mechanically. After the funeral, Robert pulled me aside. Your mother had some life insurance, Robert said. It's going toward the girls' college funds. Just so you know. I didn't ask, I said. Good, because you're not entitled to anything from this family. Robert's voice was flat. Your mother's gone. There's no reason for us to stay in contact. I think it's best if you don't come around anymore. I stared at him. You're cutting me off completely? There's nothing to cut off. You were never really part of this family anyway. Robert walked away. That was the last time I spoke to him. For 2 years I heard nothing, and the twins occasionally texted me, mostly asking for money or tech advice. I helped when I could, but we weren't close. I moved up at Google, senior software engineer, then team lead. At 28, I left to join a startup that later got acquired by Microsoft for $50 million. My shares were worth $3.2 million after taxes. I bought a house in Bellevue. Nice place, nothing crazy. Invested smartly. Started a college scholarship fund in Mom's name for kids from low-income families. Then last month, I got a call from an unknown Portland number. Hello? I answered. Daniel, it's Emily. Hey, Em, what's up? It's about Dad. Her voice cracked. He's in trouble. My stomach tightened. What kind of trouble? He got fired 3 months ago. Something about financial irregularities at his firm. They're investigating him. He's been using his savings to pay bills, but he's almost out of money. The house is going into foreclosure. He's desperate, Daniel. Why are you telling me this? I asked. Because he asked me to call you. He needs help. I almost laughed. He needs help? From me? I know he wasn't good to you, Emily said quietly. Sophie and I know. We were kids, but we remember. But Daniel, he's still family, and he's really struggling. He told me I wasn't family 2 years ago at Mom's funeral, I said. Silence on the other end. Please, Daniel, just meet with him, hear him out. Against my better judgment, I agreed. We met at a Starbucks in Portland. Robert looked terrible. He'd lost weight. Gray hair, wrinkled clothes from JCPenney, not the Brooks Brothers suits he used to wear. He looked like he'd aged 10 years. Daniel, Robert said when he saw me. His voice was different, smaller. Robert, I replied, sitting down across from him. Thank you for coming. Robert's hands shook as he held his coffee cup. I know you didn't have to. Emily said you needed help. Robert swallowed hard. I made some mistakes at work. Moved money between accounts without proper authorization. I thought I was helping the company, but they're calling it embezzlement. I got fired. My reputation is destroyed. No firm will hire me. I'm sorry to hear that, I said. And I meant it, not because I cared about him, but because I wasn't cruel like he was. I'm losing the house, Robert continued. I can't pay the mortgage. The twins are in college. I'm behind on tuition payments. Sophie might have to drop out. I have nothing, Daniel. I have absolutely nothing left. He looked at me with desperate eyes. I need money, a loan, anything. I know I don't deserve to ask you, but you're the only person I can turn to. Emily told me about your success, about the Microsoft deal. You have resources now. There it was, the ask. I sat back and looked at the man who'd made my childhood miserable, the man who threw away my birthday cake, who told me I didn't belong in his house, who made my mother cry, who ignored me at dinner tables, who told me I wasn't family. You want me to give you money, I said slowly. Yes, please. I'm begging you, Daniel. Robert's voice cracked. I know I wasn't a good stepfather. I was hard on you. But family helps family, right? Family helps family, I repeated. That's interesting coming from you. Robert's face reddened. I know I wasn't perfect. You weren't a father at all, I interrupted. You spent 15 years making me feel worthless. You threw my birthday cake in the trash when I was 12. You called me a burden. You told me I'd never amount to anything. You made my mother feel guilty for loving me. I was under a lot of stress. You were cruel. There's a difference. I leaned forward. When Mom was dying, where were you? At the office. When she needed you most, you weren't there. But I was. I held her hand through every chemo session. I was there when she took her last breath. Robert's eyes filled with tears. I loved your mother. You loved what she provided. Companionship, a clean house, someone to raise your kids. My voice was calm but firm. And when she died, you told me not to come around anymore. You said I was never really family. I was grieving. So was I, but grief doesn't excuse cruelty. I stood up. Robert, I'm not going to give you money. His face went pale. Please, Daniel, please. I'm desperate. The girls need help with college. The twins can apply for student loans and scholarships like I did. They'll be fine. And you? You'll figure it out. You're a smart man. You manage money for decades. You'll survive. I'll lose everything, Robert whispered. Maybe that's what you need to lose. I picked up my jacket. You spent years teaching me that I had to earn everything on my own, that nobody owed me anything. Well, consider this your lesson. I walked toward the door, then stopped and turned back. But I'm not you, Robert. I'm not cruel. So I'll tell you this. There's a job opening at a financial consulting firm in Portland. Small company, entry-level position, $45,000 a year. I know the owner. I can put in a word for you. But you'll have to interview like everyone else. And you'll have to work your way up from the bottom, just like I did. Robert stared at me, stunned. Take it or leave it. That's all I'm offering. I headed for the door. Daniel, Robert called out. I turned. I'm sorry, he said, tears streaming down his face. I'm so sorry for everything. You deserve better. Your mother would be ashamed of how I treated you. I looked at him for a long moment. You're right. She would be. I paused. But she'd also want me to be better than you were. So I'm giving you a chance you never gave me. What you do with it is up to you. I left the Starbucks and drove back to Seattle. Robert took the job. Emily texted me a few weeks later. He was working there, starting over at 58 years old, sharing a small apartment with a roommate. The twins finished college with loans and part-time jobs. They thanked me for not enabling Robert's mistakes. It taught them something about accountability. I never spoke to Robert again. I didn't need to. I'd said everything that needed to be said. Here's what I learned from this experience. Revenge isn't about destroying someone who hurt you. It's about refusing to let their cruelty define who you become. Robert spent years trying to make me feel small, but I didn't let his words become my truth. I worked hard, succeeded on my own terms, and proved that your worth isn't determined by how others treat you. The second lesson is this. When someone who hurt you comes asking for help, you're not obligated to give it, but how you respond reveals who you truly are. I could have destroyed Robert completely, humiliated him, or ignored him entirely. Instead, I offered him a hand up, not a handout. Not because he deserved it, but because I refused to become as cruel as he was. That's the difference between justice and revenge. And here's the final truth. The people who make you feel worthless are often terrified of their own inadequacy. Robert couldn't love me because I reminded him of his own failures, his inability to be a real father, his dependence on control rather than connection. People who tear others down are usually running from their own emptiness. True strength isn't about withholding help when someone is desperate. It's about offering dignity without enabling destruction. I didn't give Robert money because that would have taught him nothing. I gave him an opportunity to rebuild with his own hands the same way I had to. The sweetest victory isn't watching someone who hurt you suffer. It's becoming so secure in yourself that their opinion no longer matters. That's not revenge. That's freedom. If this story hit you in the chest, hit that like button right now. Drop a comment and tell me, would you have helped Robert or walked away completely? And if you want more stories about linked karma catching up to people who deserve it, you know what to do. Subscribe, because trust me, we're just getting started.